Welcome to the Graveyard Shift. Grab your shovels and your boots, because today we're turning up old dirt as we revisit cases that would prefer to remain buried. I'm your host, Lily Rose, and this is episode 1. Now, in today's episode, we're going to be dissecting the infamous case of child predator Mary Kay Letourneau. Mary Catherine Schmitz was born on January 30th, 1962 in Orange County, California. She was the fourth child and first daughter of college professor and proud Republican John Schmitz and his devout Roman Catholic wife, Mary. Now, Mary Kay's relationship was reportedly strained with her mom, who was an extremely religious and conservative woman. However, the relationship with her father was more of one of devotion and adoration on both parts. Now, Mary idolized her father, and he equally treasured his daughter. So, when Mary had become a young adult, it was revealed that her father had been hiding a dark secret that would come to have a profound effect on the family. After failing to win his political campaign back in the day for presidency, John had found some work as a teacher at a high school, and this is where he met an underage student who he maintained a sexual relationship with, and this resulted into bastardized children with an unknown father. Now, the Schmitz reputation was under extreme scrutiny, and John's hypocrisy was exposed. Now, I find this pivotal because, and particularly interesting, as Mary Kay loved to emulate her dad and only spoke adoringly of him until the day he died. She died, actually. So now, with plans to pursue a career in politics like her father, Mary intends to move to Washington, D.C. following her college graduation from Arizona State University. However, this is where Mary meets a Steve Letourneau and becomes pregnant with their first child. Shortly after, in 1985, due to the pressure from her conservative parents and upbringing, the couple get married and drop out of college before moving to Steve's hometown of Anchorage, Alaska. Now, a year later, the family moves to Seattle, Washington, where they have 3 more children: Mary Claire, Nicholas, and Jacqueline. So over the next few years, Mary gets bored being in a loveless relationship with this husband, and she wants to find purpose outside of being a homemaker. And the growing family could honestly use the extra income from 2 working parents. So in 1989, Letourneau finds a job teaching at Shorewood Elementary School, and this is where she becomes a respected and well-known member of the faculty. However, only 7 years later, there would be national news-breaking headlines about a female child predator pregnant by a 12-year-old student and 36-year-old teacher pregnant by her 6th grade student. Yeah, she's nasty. So in June 1996, Mary had begun a sexual relationship with one of her 12-year-old students. His name was Billy Falau, and in later interviews, he would later say he welcomed this. However, this is most likely a groomed response, as children are not capable of consenting to a sexual relationship with a grown-ass adult. As a teacher, Letourneau took 6th grade student Falau under her wing, quote-unquote, and encouraged his artistic talents. He spent time in her house, and she encouraged a friendship between him and her oldest child, Steve, who was only a year younger than him. Now, the relationship came crashing to a halt in February 1997 when her husband, Steve Letourneau, found love letters between his wife and Billy Falau. Later that month, a relative of Steve's reported the affair to the officials at Shorewood Elementary. The police were notified, and Letourneau, who at the time was pregnant with Falau's child, was arrested and charged with statutory rape. Mary Letourneau gave birth to a baby girl named Audrey in May 1997. 3 months later, Letourneau pled guilty to 2 counts of second-degree rape, and although a defense psychiatrist testified that she suffered from bipolar disorder, she was sentenced to 7 years in prison. After serving only 80 days, she was granted a release on the condition that she enters a treatment program for sex offenders and promised not to have any more contact with Billy Falau. Shortly after her release, in February 1998, Letourneau violated the terms of her parole when the Seattle police, for the second time, had caught her with an underage Falau in a parked car together. Authorities found $6,200 in cash, passports, and receipts for $850 in clothing purchases. This led authorities to speculate that Letourneau and Falau were planning to flee the country. As a result of this violation of her parole, Letourneau was sentenced to serve her full prison term at the Washington Correction Center for Women. In October 1998, she gave birth to their second daughter. Supposedly, she was conceived during her brief period of parole. Both of the girls were in the custody of Billy Falau's mother, Suna, while Letourneau served her time. Now, Steve Letourneau divorced Mary during this time as well, and all 4 children from their marriage remained in the sole custody of their father, who moved them all back to Alaska. Letourneau was released from prison in August 2004. Shortly after her release, a judge lifted an order that barred contact between Letourneau and Folau after the now 21-year-old Villy petitioned the court. The restraining order was dropped against Letourneau, but Letourneau remained a registered sex offender in Washington state until her death. Villy and Mary were soon engaged, and in May 2005, the couple married at a winery in Woodinville, Washington. Eventually, they were reunited with their children, and Folau and Letourneau settled in the suburbs of Seattle, Washington. She and Folau celebrated their 10-year wedding anniversary in 2015 with famed interviewer Barbara Walters, who talked to the couple on an episode of 2020. In May 2017, Folau legally separated from Letourneau, and in August 2017, speaking through a lawyer, Folau claimed that he was proceeding with the separation despite Letourneau's desire for reconciliation, as revealed in court documents. Now, on July 7th, 2020, Letourneau's attorney, David Girk, confirmed that she had passed away from brain cancer the day prior in her home near Seattle. Folau was by her side. Quote, Villy moved back from California, gave up his life there, and for the last 2 months of Mary's life, he stood by her 24/7 taking care of her, Girk said. Quote, so yes, they were divorced and they had their spats, but they were always in love with each other. Now, here are my final thoughts. Now that I've told you a little bit about Mary Kay, I think it's important that I disclose some of my thoughts about what a piece of crap she was. This woman preyed on a child who came from a single-parent household of 4 siblings. He was the youngest. He was craving maternal affection from a teacher. She took advantage of him for her own disgusting sexual needs, and I think it's important to talk about cases like this because they happen way too often. There's a large stigma surrounding young boys, and there's a wall that doesn't allow discourse about the sexual predation young boys receive from older women. Now, women, they're typically associated with safety, mothers, caretakers, someone you would entrust to take care of your child, and that's what makes them all the more dangerous. And in this case, her influence over her victims was sustained for the rest of her life, and she continued to get away with this in her marriage to him. She, in her interviews, purposely victimizes herself, and she never shows remorse for her actions, and she strongly felt she was wrongly punished and made an example of. However, the truth is far less glamorous than she pretends for the cameras. Anyway, thank you guys for getting in the dirt with me, but now it's time we wash up and close up because the sun is rising. I'll see you next week on the Graveyard Shift, and in the meantime, like, share, subscribe. This has been Lily Rose with Cal State LA News. Till next time, bye!